Hey guys, back again. This time I'm going to be making some Detroits. And every restaurant's kind of different on the workflow of making Detroits and Sicilians. And once again, this is a New York pizzeria. So don't ask me why we have Detroits, but they do seem to sell better than Sicilians. Maybe it's a trendy thing. So by any way, this is what we're doing, and we do par bake them here, where in Detroit they usually don't, but that will be the only item they're really selling as far as pizza goes, so they can afford to time the proofing to cook them to order. But one thing that happens when you par bake them is they come out crispier, similar to a Sicilian, which is traditionally par baked. A square pie would be something that is a Sicilian that's proofed and cooked to order without par baking. A grandma pie would be pretty similar, except not proofed so much, more thin crust, a pan square pizza. But anyway, these are 15 to 16 ounce doughs, and I kind of just get them all out of the tray first on the table, and I do spray a little tiny bit of oil on top so they don't stick to the table too much and don't stick to my hands, but not enough to be oily and greasy. And you can see I kind of just grab some corners and I slap it down, turn it over, and slap it again. So I do have the smooth side, or the top of the dough, on the table when they're done, and then I will transfer them to my 6 Lloyd pans that are out, and I will then have the top of the dough on top for things that proof, like bread and Sicilians and Detroits, focaccia. I always like to have the smooth side or the top side on top, whereas thin crust pizza, I like to have the smooth side or top side on the bottom because it does help slide into the oven, and the cornicione will still be the outer part of the dough, or the top side of the dough, while the middle will be the more coarse or webby side of the dough, which helps the sauce kind of blend into. I'm not a big fan of when people make them with the top of the dough on top, because then there's a clear layer between the dough and the sauce, where the sauce kind of getting into the top of the bread, if you will, I think makes a pizza what it is. So here I'm just transferring them from the table. I got their general shape on the table without sticking my hands in the pan too much, and then I just transfer them into the pan pretty similarly to how I would drop a pizza on a peel. And now that I got my 6 out here, I'm going to spray the tops of all of them, and I'm going to let them rest uncovered for a minimum of 30 minutes and up to about an hour. And the reason I'm letting them rest is because I just agitated the dough, meaning I just manipulated it, moved it around. So it's going to be resistant for a little while, meaning the corners will want to come back in, making them not so much of a square and more circular, or oval, if you will. And but after the 30 minutes, after the dough has relaxed, you'll be able to agitate or manipulate it again, pulling the corners back out and leaving them in a good shape to use. So yeah, first thing I do, I grab my 6 pans. I don't know if you guys missed it, but I did spray the tops of these doughs lightly. These doughs were left out the night before at room temperature, most likely made that day or the day before, or at the earliest 2 days before. And we just leave them out overnight, so it gets about 12 hours from 9 o'clock p.m. to 9 a.m. when I show up. And this is the first thing I do, because A, I don't want this dough to proof any more than it has been, and B, I want the shaped Detroits to get done proofing and ready to bake off at a good hour, which is usually around 3 o'clock, which is perfect. That's a break hour. It's slow in here. You have time to bake all 48 really fast, and then they can cool and be put away before the dinner rush. An alternative for people that don't have insane dinner rushes would be to pull the dough out of the walk-in in the morning, or make a batch of dough in the morning and leave them out all day during the shift, and then at night you can shape them and leave them out on the counter to proof overnight, and you can come back in the morning and bake them off. So it really depends on your workflow and how everything goes. I prefer just to pull the dough out at night here, because we do go through some pretty insane dinner rushes that are tiring for everybody. So I want the main focus for the closers to just be closing and cleaning. No extra food work, no prep, nothing like that at the end of the night. Everything will be done in the morning. And also at this location, we don't sell slices, which is actually a smart move, because slices are a ton of work for not so much money. Now, they are imperative for people trying to get people to come in. However, this brand has already gained notoriety as very good pizza that's on par with up north in Florida. So we've had our locations that do sell slices, but that is pretty much obsolete, and in place there is now a full bar at the new locations. And even some of the old locations are having a full bar built in. It is really helpful not selling slices, because this would be the time that I would be setting up my station and starting the slice window, which takes about an hour. And you sell 100 slices and you get $400 to $500, versus you sell 100 personals and you're getting $1,500 to $2,000. Slices are also very fast to cook, which means there's not much of anything else getting done when you're selling slices. You kind of have to man the ovens and make sure you don't put a slice in for 3 minutes, because it really only needs one. So I think that they're starting to understand what's worth it and not worth it with these new locations. This one is still thriving wonderfully. But yeah, I hope you guys understand this method. It makes a very, very nice rectangle relatively easily. So I can get through 48 of these in about 48 minutes. I always time it in the morning to see where I'm at, and it averages out to about a minute per Detroit. Fixing the corners only takes a few minutes for all 48. It's this part that takes the longest. So yeah, first thing I do is I shape these, set them aside, and I don't just sit down and do nothing for 30 minutes to an hour. I'll set up the station, the trash cans, I'll see if anything still needs to be cleaned. I'll make a prep list. We do a lot of like bulk prep here. So for instance, we'll cut like onions by the bus tub, meaning we'll cut 20-30 onions, and I'll go and just portion what I need for the day. If you guys give me a call for consulting, that is one of those trade secrets I would have to tell you over the phone, as to how we can keep a bus tub of onions and peppers for up to a week and then not get mushy at all, which also helps with the quality of your pizzas, because you don't have too much of the water in your onions and peppers making your pizza wet. So it helps for multiple reasons, but that is one of those things I unfortunately cannot and will not share for free. But there's a little taste of what you can get out of paying for a consulting call. I don't mean to sound greedy in any way, shape, or form for asking money for consulting, but I do want to get away from some of the manual labor of making pizza until I am, in fact, an owner. And I want to see if I can generate some revenue through all the knowledge I've gotten through multiple years, multiple mentors, messing things up. The whole goal of consulting is to have me already made the mistakes that you don't need to make. And I always have a why for everything I do. There's never something I do and no applicable reason. I do try to have everything very calculated throughout my whole day, including taking advantage of times that are slow to prep and set up, and times that are busy to just focus on nothing but orders. And even in a restaurant like this, that's worst week was $80,000 and goes above $100,000 a week, there is always time to get things done, as long as time management is a thing. Also, teamwork is imperative. You can't have everything on one or two guys, especially not at a volume like this. You need to start by giving people some of the easy jobs, or making them easy jobs or idiot proof, and have them graduate onto harder tasks, and people find fulfillment in completing these tasks. So don't always be the guy who has to do everything because you're a control freak. Believe me, I understand wanting to have control, but you also can't be there 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, so you will need to give other people the reins, and you will need to teach them. You can use any one of my videos as training videos if that helps. My most successful is my How to Stretch New York Pizza Dough video. That one's got over 30,000 views, which was amazing. And that's probably the one that could have made this channel go viral, but I didn't make a video for at least a month after that. So now I'm taking the slow route, and I'm not extremely worried about becoming viral. I do this to help. But yeah, here I'm coming back. Now I'm doing the corners. The dough is well rested, very easy. Just pull the corners, make sure the sides are against the sides, and go from there. I do want to make sure the dough is relatively even, so if I see some thick spots, I try to push that dough to anywhere there might be a thin spot and make it as uniform as possible. But there is a little bit of beauty and imperfection, so you do have to keep it moving a little bit, and you will learn that everything you do in this industry is abandoned. It's never finished. So for instance, if it's really slow and you have time to take your time on a pizza, you just abandon it later. Than when it's really busy and you have to make a pizza fast, you might have to abandon it earlier. But I want to show you the ways that don't risk quality while bringing up speed. So yeah, so once again, still working on that book. I would love any insight as to what could be included in this book. I will leave my email in the description for consulting purposes. It's just really good to be back. I love being at this new store with the high volume. I've learned so much already. I feel like through repetitions and thinking outside the box that I have become better in the short time I've been here, the few months. I'm learning more how to work with a team. As far as this location is kind of full of the all-stars of the company, if you will, so it is nice having a lot of like-minded people, a lot of like-minded ideas. You know, I might have a lot of good ideas, but I'm not the only guy with good ideas. Gotta credit Bronx Johnny and Adamus and Al, everybody else, because anybody who thinks they have to have every single idea all the time is ignorant. So many people, the last that you would expect, sometimes have the best ideas. Always be open-minded as an owner. Don't be closed off to taking any kind of advice, whether it be how you deal with people or deal with the work. These are things that I've learned the hard way. I've learned through business school. I've learned through books. So yeah, this is me fixing the corners, and what I'm doing, we got these cool Lloyd pan lids, which save so much time compared to wrapping 48 of these, and also save a bunch of wrap. I forget how much they are per lid, but they're plastic, so they're not that much. I believe the website is called pizzapanlids.com. We have 48 lids for our 48 max Detroits that we'll do in the morning. Yeah, for a while we were selling like 60 a night, and now we're selling about 40 to 45. So if we do 48 6 days a week, that usually gives us one day off from making them, which is Friday, the busiest day of the week, hands down. But yeah, so I'm putting these lids off and I'm bringing them to that corner. That corner has a lot of like oven heat trapped over there, so it's about 100 to 110 degrees. Usually there's no one working in that spot for too long. They might be cutting a Detroit real quick or something like that, but nobody's living there basically through a rush or anything. And it's a perfect spot to proof these Detroits. If I get done with the corners at, let's say, 10:30 a.m. after I set everything up and whatever, well, by 3 o'clock, 3:30, they'll all be ready to go. If I were to leave them out in a room temperature area, it would probably be until 8 or 9 p.m., which sometimes it has been, or sometimes it was colder, like we're coming up into the fall, which drops about 10-15 degrees, and some of these have taken longer, and they have been in that corner for well over 6 hours, going on 10 to 12. And what we'll do in that case is we'll cook all of these off, throw them on speed rack. They're all on wire racks. They're not stacked on top of each other, so they can cool really fast and only take 15-20 minutes for them to cool. We'll clean up the kitchen, and then we will put them all away in the walk-in to use for the next 2 or 3 days. Try to keep a good rotation. We don't do too much of these because bread that's a week old, usually it gets kind of dry and uncomfortable to use, and we want the best of the best for our customers. See, there's a couple I probably wanted just to see how much the corners spring back, if at all, and it looks like they're all good, but I just checked a few of them. Sometimes I go crazy and I'm like, oh, I missed those, but it looks like I didn't miss them. So yeah, that's the making of the Detroits. Next video will be the baking of the Detroits, or within the next few videos, because that's a cool thing and it might be eye-opening for a few people.